There we go. Afternoon all. This is Mega Mike for Area 3 Radio, and this afternoon we're talking to Jodis Welch, and we're just going to have a talk about a little meeting with the MP there, and we're going to see what the MPs have had to say, what advice they can give us, what questions they've got, and more importantly, whether they know what the fuck is going on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I suppose first question is, what exactly did you sort of chat about? What was the thrust of it?
The intention of the meeting was to pretty much cover, and this is UK specific, so I know a lot of people mention, oh, is this going to affect the SPGA airplay and whatnot? No, this was very specifically UK Gamergate focused. My intention was to bring to light the sort of media representation or misrepresentation of the movement that we get from the likes of the Guardian, the Mirror, that sort of outlets, and just to say that it's out there. This is what's being said, and yet it's kind of disparaging and dehumanizing innocent supporters of the group. And I was kind of hoping to touch on like the human element rather than like the specifics of Gamergate, because I've bore witness to 2 incidents myself where people they were basically going on Twitter saying they were going to commit suicide because they were getting themselves into such a state of depression from just being hounded by the opposition, and then everything else that goes on in life. Now, fortunately, the 2 individuals, the attempts failed. One was based in America, which I was actively seeing in front of my eyes over the Twitter feed, and I was kind of like helpless as to, I didn't know this person. I knew that they were a big deal on the Kotaku in Action subreddit, but I didn't know who they were, didn't know their real name, didn't know where they lived, and so all I could do was just go to Twitter support and say, hey, someone's making these tweets, do you know this person? As it turns out in the end, I mean, I'm sure people know who it is. I'm not going to name names, just obviously just to keep their privacy, but I'm sure people know who I'm talking about. But there was someone that they knew personally that was part of the movement, and they got them sorted out. There was another incident here in the UK of a French-English gentleman. I think people again will probably know who I'm talking about. Fortunately, he was, with his wife, so that was stuff. So the intention was to kind of look at the human element and just say, look, we've kind of already achieved a lot in the movement with a lot of the ethical changes that have been made in a lot of the media, but in the UK specifically, we've not really had a real big chance to kind of have a moment where we can say, hey, you're saying this about Gamergate, that the misogynist, the sexist, the racist, the this, the worse than ISIS, whatever. There's never really been an opportunity for us to to have basically a chance to basically counter back. You've got the SPGA airplay happening in America in August.
Yeah.
In America, and then we've had recently the one in the Netherlands, where they had me there, and I think we're still waiting for the actual result of that, aren't we? That was because that was only a week and a half ago. They haven't actually made their decision yet, have they? That board.
No. Well, we're still waiting on airplay. Airplay, is going to be fantastic, and we're going to have hopefully some journalistic representation. But
yeah.
The fact that we've had members of parliament, I assume a sitting current member of parliament as well.
Yeah, I mean, she's okay with me naming her now. It's Jenny Chapman of the Darlington constituency. I've tweeted that. My inbox has kind of exploded with retweets and whatnot. Just to get out there, just at least she's at this point, I've got to say, she's still very much neutral, and also admittedly still very much in the dark with Gamergate. I mean, the bulk of the conversation this morning was just trying to explain what Gamergate was, and then that was pretty much it. So I didn't really get what I wanted, which was the crux of the damage that the unwarranted press is given to supporters and whatnot. But so admittedly, I knew I was going in basically trying to explain, probably one of the most complicated things that we've ever had on Twitter to someone that is completely in the dark of gaming culture, overall, let alone just this one part of it, this one facet of gaming culture. So, and she's fully admitted that. So she's very much like neutral, pretty much still in the dark of what Gamergate's about. But she's at least made the effort to listen. She says she's going to try and check out the tag. She said she didn't mind being named. I made the point. I said I didn't want to name you. because I know what the opposition can be like, even with neutrals. If you don't toe the line, then you're just as bad as those that support it. I mean, when I contacted her originally via email, I'd actually said, look, I'm kind of want to keep this quiet for the time being. I'm actually talking about it with my my employers. I actually had 2 meetings with with management before this meeting a few weeks ago, just to say, hey, I'm having this meeting with Jenny, because where I work at a college, and Jenny's actually a big supporter of the institution, and speaks highly of it. So that I mean, it was easy for me to get in contact with her because there's close ties to who I work with, and the fact that she supports it. But I did go to the management to say, hey, I'm going to have this meeting with Jenny concerning this. There may be a situation where you start getting contact by people saying, hey, do you know you've got you're employing this like racist shitlord, in your firm and whatnot. To which they turn and say, right, okay, well, if we get that, we're not going to believe it for 1 second, because we know what you're like. You're well respected here and well liked, and we know anything that's said of you is not true. But thanks for letting us know. I said, well, yeah, but I feel they need to do that because other people have been had at their jobs have been put in jeopardy because they've been calls made by the opposition that say, hey, are you sure you want to employ this person, because he seems to be into Gamergate, which is a terrible movement of harassment and whatnot. So I kind of sorry. So I didn't want to bring up Jenny's name initially, and up until this point today, and she said she doesn't mind, and I said, well, you sure, because it can get pretty hairy, but she says no, she can take it. So fair enough, all fairness to her. So but yeah, it's I've sent it out there now that it's Jenny Jenny Chapman that's seeing me this morning. So at least give if you're listening now, give thanks to her and her staff as well that were there, for at least giving someone like me, a bloody no-name jobber, in the group, at least a chance to talk about the movement. So yeah, we didn't. I suppose I didn't really get. I mean, it's like that when you talk with anyone, you have an idea of what you want to talk, and then you'll find out like 5 minutes. Oh, I wish I actually said that, and I didn't get a chance to say that. So I suppose I didn't really get what I wanted, which was to say, well, this is the damage that it's being done to people. I did briefly mention, I think, one of the incidents with the person from KIA, and what happened to them. That was like towards the end. But yeah, that was the crux. The idea was to try and concentrate on some of the UK press and what they've been saying and how we can obviously counter that. So the advice really was, she respects the mentality that Gamergate has, and that I have, and hopefully that I'm maintaining here, that I did describe it effectively as what the embryonic days of the Occupy Wall Street movement, in that it was like a leaderless, group. There was a general consensus and a general goal, but everyone was their own person and their own ideals and this, that, and the other, and it just made for a much better open forum of ideas and discussion. Because I mean, obviously we've had the accusation of, well, you should be an organisation and you should have like hierarchy and then people take you seriously. It's like, well, no, but we've seen what happens when people do that before, and it just fails miserably and it collapses, and you don't get anything done. So I think Jenny, to be fair, is appreciative of that's the mentality that we're going for, but she still is earing towards, well, you need to have some form of organisation because you're not going to get anything done otherwise. So what's being suggested maybe is if there was an organisation, not necessarily like the County Durham chapter of Gamergate UK, that's obviously, she says, fine, if that's not what you're after, that's not what you're all about, don't do that. But maybe an organisation that kind of represents, maybe not just Gamergate, but maybe just consumers in general. And immediately I was thinking, a bit like the ECA, not the ESA, which is obviously the industry one, but there's the ECA, which is in America the very consumer specific advocacy group. Something on that line that isn't necessarily Gamergate, but at least acknowledges and supports Gamergate, and therefore will represent, because they're at least consumers, if not just Gamergate specifically, but consumers in general, to say, hey, this thing's being said about our consumers,
Yeah.
of the media, this is wrong. We would like to retort by this evidence, etc., etc. As an example. So that was one idea.
Right.
I don't know how that flies with you.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if we've got organisations we know we can go to as a group, I suppose that is a useful thing to some of us. Obviously, everyone being as they are completely different, some people may think it's a ridiculous idea. But for me, if we've got somewhere we can go and say, look, this is a lie, here is the evidence why, and that will be taken seriously and that will be taken to the media, that's at the very least a step more than we've got now.
Yeah, I mean, I got the confirmation of what I've long suspected, that I mean, obviously, I know people have tried the Operation BBC when they tried to obviously complain at the BBC Trust, and I know that's a method that's there and used and didn't really go anywhere, and I'm thinking, well, surprise, surprise, it's the BBC. I know in the case of, I mean, although to be fair, in my personal opinion, the BBC is probably not the worst offender anyway. I would probably say the Guardian is. To which obviously the BBC Trust and that wouldn't come into play. You'd be looking at the Press Complaints Commission, which I still keep referring to it as the old name, the IPCC. And it's not anymore. It's I think was it the PCOC or something?
I've got no idea.
Yeah, I'm drawing. I'm going to Google search that in a moment. But the Press Complaints Commission that we have in the UK, but I think she pretty much confirmed that because nobody's specifically named, because it's a hashtag and not an organisation, the Press Complaints Commission really aren't going to listen to us, because they'll only obviously take seriously any sort of like charge of, hey, you're disparaging us if you're an individual person that they've named or you're actually an organisation.
Yeah.
So, no, it's just a hashtag with a group of individuals. So yeah, pretty much confirmed that that's not really a route we can go down. Because that would be the obvious one, would be go to the Press Complaint Commission and say, hey, this thing's been said about us and it's totally wrong. It's completely misinformed and not based in any form of reality, and it's making people look bad and feel bad. So yeah, confirm that that's not a route we can take given the setup of it, which is fine. It's the way it's set up, so we just got to work with it. So I think in that sense, that's why she probably suggested that if at least there was an organisation tenuously linked, not obviously out and out a Gamergate organisation, because that's obviously not what we're about, but at least tenuously linked to say, well, we're at least looking out for consumers in general.
Yeah.
So not just an organisation that's going to say voice the opinion of like Gamergate, but voice the issues that consumers have. I mean, I actually did manage to bring up. We did actually get in a conversation about the recent, faff about the Batman Arkham Knight on the PC. She brought up. She brought the point of saying, well, by the sounds of it, the industry is so huge that there's always going to be controversy. She says, oh, guaranteed there's going to be controversy. It's that huge now that it's bound to happen. And it led on to the incident with the PC version of Arkham Knight and the fact that it seemed to be palmed off to a small studio that couldn't possibly do the work that was needed in the amount of time that they were given and the resources they were given, and the fact that allegedly they knew how bad it was, but they thought, well, let's just hope that nobody notices it. And, well, it was, quite noticeable, obviously.
Yeah, I think some people may have noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, and she actually said, "Well, did people get refunds?" She says, "Well, thankfully, Steam, which is probably the biggest, distributor of PC games lately, has recently implemented a refund system, so which people have got refunds for that, and actually they've taken off Steam altogether, so it can't be sold until the problem's actually fixed." So I said, "Yeah, there is that sort of controversy." So that sort of advocacy group could look at a situation like and say, hey, that's wrong. So it's not necessarily a Gamergate organisation, it's just a consumer organisation, and would highlight an issue such as that and say, hey, this is not fair to consumers that are spending, 40, 50, 60 pounds, dollars, whatever. I mean, obviously we're talking in the context of UK, so, sterling, but the idea is... Yeah, sorry, go on.
This is the thing, I mean, as Gamergate, we are consumers. We are a consumer revolt. So anyone that's going to take us seriously and go, well, hold on a minute, actually, these people are not, frothing at the mouth, rabid rapists and monsters and terrible human beings, would be useful. Now, this lady obviously has a rough idea what's going on with the hashtag. Now, obviously, the last thing we want is people to be spamming her on Twitter with, all sorts of nonsense.
Yeah, yeah. If you're listening now, appreciate if you're listening in, and it would be nice to give her thanks at least for just giving me the time. But the impression I got is that she's probably not really going to want to do much else because she's freely admitted she doesn't know anything about gaming culture. She's completely in the dark about Gamergate. This is the first time she's heard about it today from me. So she's obviously not acknowledged it from, even reading, because I mean she's bound to have read the Guardian a lot because I mean she is a Labour MP, so she's of the left, so that's the sort of paper that you would assume that they would read, but obviously she seems to have obviously skimmed past that when she's obviously read a lot of media, so it's the first time she's heard it today. At least that's the impression I got. So yeah, I wouldn't want anyone kind of bombarding her with facts. If she starts asking questions, by all means answer them and just try and give her the usual stuff like the deep freeze link and which is a really good website. It's a really good website that I've got to say. So stuff like that, just something that's nice inside. Because the other thing she did suggest was, are you familiar with the Member of Parliament Tom Watson?
Yes.
Yeah. Currently, one of the candidates is aiming for deputy leader of the Labour Party. So she's actually said don't bother him until after September when the deputy leadership race is dealt with. But if anyone listening in doesn't know who he is, or people that come back to me up with who know who he is, he's very much a pro-gamer MP. He was there along with the likes of Ed Vaizey in the Conservative Party, so the two of them would actually do cross-party support in fighting against some of the things that was being said by the likes of Keith Vaz, ironically in Labour as well. Because he was obviously seen as the British Jack Thompson, wasn't he? Which is an insult to Jack Thompson because Jack Thompson didn't like him either. He actually said, "No, I don't like that guy. I find him quite shifty and only really doing it for his own political agenda." That is actually what Jack Thompson said. So it's actually an insult to Jack Thompson to liken Keith Vaz to Mr. Thompson. That's how bad Keith Vaz is. Among other things, we could. that's another story for another day. Yeah. But I mean, he was the one that was like a Jack Thompson type in like the 2000s, and that was obviously having to go at games, for the violence and it's warping children's mind and this and the other. And Tom Watson was one of those that fought against that and said, no, this isn't right. This isn't based on any sort of fact or science or logic. The industry in the UK is thriving. It's generating a lot of income for the country. It's getting people employed. So he was out there along with Ed Vaizey and maybe a handful of others I didn't get to hear about, but he's the one that's pretty much pro-gamer. So she immediately dropped his name out, say, well, this is maybe something Tom's interested in. So what she suggested is, not right now, as I say, because he's obviously in the middle of a deputy leader race, so wait until September. She said either contact him directly, or she could at least act as a mediator between the two. She's asked if at all possible, and immediately I was thinking, well, how the hell am I going to do this? And probably this is the reason why I've come onto a stream, because I'm don't want to come up with the idea myself and what to say. But if Gamergate could be summarised, she said, on an A4 sheet of paper, and I know that sounds pretty hard because there's just so much involved in Gamergate, but if it was at least summarised on an A4 sheet that she could at least congest herself and then pass on to Tom Watson to then start a dialogue with him. Yeah, she said that if there was needing that consumer advocacy group, she said Tom would be the sort of person that would get involved and really get involved. She actually said that he's terrible actually for just basically getting something and just working really hard on getting something set up to the point that even if it gets him into trouble, he'll do that. I'll take her word for it, because I mean, I'm not of any party, and so I don't really, care much for most politicians anyway. But
no,
it's an avenue. It's a possible avenue there that we've got someone that might be up for looking into the cause and making comment himself, or at least also giving advice on hey, maybe you could set this up that if something crops up and something said about consumers, whether it be Gamergate or just something in general on consumers, because I mean it's not just Gamergate that's obviously had the attack of entitled whiny babies just because we've expected the product that's worth 60 quid of our hard-earned money. something like that would be nice in the UK as well, just to say, hey, this is wrong. And if he's up for, if he's interested, what she's saying is there's a possible interest maybe with him, given that he's such a big gaming fan himself.
Yeah.
That,
I mean, the thing is, even if he just talks to the press and says, look, these people, the ones that are telling us that gamers are all terrible, horrible people, well, actually, they're talking nonsense. That's enough, I think, maybe, just to sit there and go, hey, guys, actually, no, this is ridiculous. Games don't do this. Gamers don't do this. Where are you getting this information? Just someone with almost as much reach in the press, if not more so, than the people that we're dealing with. Fighting fire with fire, as it were.
Exactly. I mean, all I've ever really wanted out of someone in a higher position than me, in a better position than me, almost, is just basically pose the question, okay, why are you saying this? Is it because you're ideologically driven to do so? Or are you saying it because you just blatantly just after the clicks on the website and that's it? And just pose the questions. Look, why did this come out? Do you believe this? In which case, can you supply evidence, or do you not really believe it, but it's just a cheap way to get hits because you just need the ad revenue? And that's all I ever needed. That's all. Just if someone in a decent position that could actually come out and say that, then that would make me happy. I'm not looking for legislation or fight. People were saying, "Oh, well, you wanting to get Leveson involved?" I said, fuck no. Leveson inquiry was rubbish. It was terrible.
Gotcha.
If it actually got that far, I'd be saying, "No, I don't want any part of that whatsoever. You can do it yourself." Then, that was god awful that setup. So I mean, I'm not looking for any sort of like hardline governmental legislation or anything really that says, hey, we're going to do you in for saying that. So just as long as there's someone in a reputable position that can say, hey, I'm going to call you out on that. Where are you getting that from? Can you actually supply the evidence? Or if not, can you just admit that you've only said it because it's generating enough clicks for ad revenue, and that's it. That's all I've ever wanted.
Well, one of the things that the guys are saying in the YouTube chat at the minute is that there's never been any interviews of anyone using the hashtag, because of course they're all saying, "Oh, we can't find them; they're anonymous." I guess one of the things would be for those of us that can afford to be semi-anonymous, or to be seen with our actual identity, maybe getting a few of those people, wherever they're coming from, be they people with 10,000 followers, 3 million followers, or 10 followers. Maybe getting some of those guys on just to go, hey guys, this is us, this is who we are.
Yeah.
This is where we're coming from.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys could talk to us. Of course, the problem is that the press are never going to do that.
Well, no. In its current setup, of course, it doesn't. No. So I mean, but I think the reason why I've come into the stream following this, and I appreciate that you've the sudden time to do this. So I mean, that was generally the advice I was given. I mean, it was probably no more than 45 minutes the meeting because there was other people she needed to see. So and I didn't want to obviously step on too much of a time. Obviously, if there's other people to see, so it's a case of, well, that's the advice we're being given. I mean, she was obviously saying, hey, get yourself out there, and so I think she was suggesting I'd like set up something here in the Durham area for a gamer meeting. I'm thinking, well, I mean, I could do a gamers club, I suppose, but again, knowing the mentality of GG, and I'm kind of the same mindset as well. I'm not really one for just going out there and saying, hey, right, I'm representing GG, and this is what we all think is, because what I think is going to be totally different to about 100 other people. So well,
that's the thing. I mean, we've
got really just the opportunity now that get this out there, and then as a collective, as we've done before, come up with a general consensus of, okay, right, well, maybe we can do this, maybe we can set it up this way, get these people involved, because I don't really want to be the one to say, yeah, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this and do this. No. Because I can give a few ideas, but otherwise it should be opened up to everyone else. So the whole point, really, again, for coming on here is this is the advice we're being given, but I'm opening it up to everyone else to think about, discuss, and see if something can come up, rather than just, hey, I'm doing this now.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. We've got the meeting down in Birmingham on the 29th of August. Now, as I'm told, because I speak with the organizer quite a bit, we've got somewhere between 80 and 100 people from the UK turning up to that.
Yeah.
including one or two e-celebs, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
You know, and I think maybe getting this sort of topic on board with the guys there might be a good idea.
Yeah.
To the very least in the UK, that's a hell of a lot of people in one place.
Yeah.
It's, you know, 80 something.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's a good thing. So, of course, they'll be from all over, and we can look at talking to maybe more MPs and more people in positions that we can go, look, we're not going to sit back and take this nonsense.
Yeah.
How do we get out there? Because if enough of us are talking to MPs, as you've done, if enough of us are talking to people that we can trust in the press, which are few and far between, but if there's enough of us doing it, eventually we might be able to do something. I mean, obviously, airplay should be a big, hopefully a big sort of move towards us being able to speak to the press.
Yeah.
But it's what do we do after that?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's one of the things that we can look at with talking to the MPs, because obviously Tom Watson's going to be a relatively big figure. I appreciate the Labour Party, and for those of you that are outside the UK, the Labour Party at the minute are a bit of a joke, but they're at least a political party, you know, even if at the minute they're not doing very much. So that's always good.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably stress as well that even if we were to get someone like Tom Watson involved, I mean, even I would probably say to him, and again, this is just my personal speaking, I mean, again, everyone else is going to have, you know, a different thought on this, and that's fine. But I would probably say to Tom, I said, well, if you help us out with something, fine, but I want this to be cross-party. I said, because, I mean, I'm not, my bio on Twitter says hashtag left, right, both suck. I am not of the left or the right. I think it's an antiquated sort of 20th century mess that, to be honest, I just don't want any part of, because it's a free way for people just to basically bash over the head because of a label, you know. GG, obviously, you know, Gamergate being a prime example of that, but I don't associate left or right. I think it's meaningless and just, you know, ruined a lot of political discourse in general, not just, you know, obviously specifically what we're talking about, but so that's what I would say. Like, I appreciate you if you are going to get involved in this and you're up for doing this, fine, but I want cross-party support. I don't want this to be just a Labour Party thing. No, I would like this to be, you know, involving people of all stripes, because I said as much to Jenny. I said, we're painted as right-wing reactionary, and that's not true. It's mostly left-wing libertarian. There are some people of the right that's in the movement, and, you know, that should be respected as well, and not dismissed. But it's mostly left-leaning, but the idea is we accept anybody. So that should also, you know, continue on to whatever, you know, is set up, whether it's done by Tom, or he doesn't get involved but just gives advice and it's set up by other people. But it's a case of, well, whatever it is, it's all party and it's all consensus.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, of course, when we're looking at gamers, we do come from all walks of life, all stripes, all ages, all sexes, all genders. Yeah. And I guess if we have something that is cross-party support, you would get so many people involved in politics, just for the sheer, you know, value of, well, this is a non-political bipartisan organisation, or tripartisan if you include the Lib Dems, but I don't because they're terrible. So, you know, we've got that there, and, you know, if the politicians want to, to be honest, I take digs at a lot of them.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I dig. Yeah, I'm the same. I kind of take digs at all, but, you know, not to disparage, you know, the effort and the time that Jenny's giving me this morning, but yeah. No,
but that's the thing.
I did make a note to her. I says, look, I'm not left or right, and I'm not affiliated with the party, and she kind of respected that. So, you know, so yeah. But yeah, I do give cheap digs to all of them.
Well, you've got to. Nick Clegg's a T-boy, let's face it. Now, that's not the point. No, but the thing is, of course, if they're wanting to, you know, bring any politics into things or whatever, they can do that. You know, they could say, look, you know, this is a group of gamers. What do you think about this political issue? You know, and we can say, well, we think it's ridiculous. We don't think it's ridiculous. Whatever. I mean, it's like Chris Rock said. There are some things I'm conservative about. There are some things I'm liberal about. Yeah. Prostitution, liberal. Gun control, conservative. That's fine. No person is just one thing. Yeah. So, you know, we need as many people, I suppose, as possible to go to, you know, Labour, Conservative, UKIP, the Greens, the Lib Dems, whatever political party you have available. Talk to these people, because they're interested in one thing, and I'll say this now: they're interested in getting themselves attention and getting themselves into power. Right, and if they think we can help them do that, they're going to support us till the end of time.
If they think they're going to get a vote out of supporting something, then they'll go ahead and do it. Which a very cynical way of obviously looking at politics, but then again, you know, there is a lot of us. You know, despite the fact that we're allegedly only like a small 100, group of shitlords.
That's
Truth be told,
true.
yeah, that would actually you would have to be tweeting like every second almost if you're going to get 7 million tweets over it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got the bionic arms and the 6 keyboards, so I do well.
Yeah, it'll be like the Matrix. Just plug in the back of your head and just do it off your mind, and that's it.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, because like I say, any pressure we can exert in order to paint an accurate picture, wherever it's coming from, that's what we want. And like this, obviously, this is a step in one direction.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone who is paying attention, this is the kind of thing we need to do. We need to get somewhere. Obviously, we've got Twitter. Twitter's fine. Twitter's fantastic. But we need people that can fight on the same level as, where our enemy, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
We need people that can go, look, hi there, news people. This is the actual situation. Look at these people, they're talking nonsense, even if it's competing news outlets.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one thing we're good at is getting these new news outlets like Niche Gamer, Tech Raptor, Games Nosh, whoever.
Yeah.
And the amount of left-leaning people that are now reading Breitbart is ridiculous, as I understand it.
Yeah, it's strange because I mean, it's kind of cynical as I'm not apolitical in any sense. I'm kind of very political. I look into a lot of UK politics in general and a lot of American politics, but there's still a level of cynicism, obviously, like I say, with us just saying to hell with both sides, or at least the ideology of them anyway. I never would have seen like a situation. I would have never probably believed a situation would crop up where you would have, staunchly left-leaning, entertaining Breitbart at all. And it was a kid. I never would have thought. It was like it would be like effectively the audience of Keith Olbermann suddenly turning into Fox News.
Yeah. Well,
I would have said no. That would never happen. Never at all. Barring Shep Smith, to be fair, because Shep Smith's great. I like Shep Smith. Rest of it, whatever. But it happened. It happened, and it was like, well, that's really something. That is really something. That it's I suppose. I mean, and personally speaking, it's a case of, do I trust Breitbart as a whole? Maybe not.
Well,
not to say, but I'm like that with everyone. I'm, that's not a knock at Breitbart specifically. That's just, news entirely. Milo, to be honest, I give a lot of leeway to because, to be fair, he's given us the goods. He injects his commentary. Fair enough, he does. He does it in his unique way, which is, quite hilarious sometimes and quite funny to watch. That's his way of doing it. Fine. But at least he's giving the goods. I mean, he's not just saying it and just saying, well, believe me. He's at least putting it out there with the evidence to say, well, this is what we found. So, I mean, what Milo's done has obviously been a big part of, bringing that audience into Breitbart and making people think, well, I'll actually entertain it more, even though it's still the right-wing libertarian blog, then, it's still at least got something that's evidence-based there.
Well, that's as long as it's got the truth, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. Now, the thing that the YouTube chat are talking about now, and I don't know if you've had a chance to...
I'm actually clicking buttons because it's the first... Very embarrassing for someone who works as an IT technician as a day job and he doesn't know how to fucking use Google Hangouts.
Don't worry about it.
It's the first time I've used it. So I hope I'm not going to get a bad rep at work when I go in and say, what the hell, you do not know what Google Hangout and how all the works and whatnot. We're expecting you to fix this when we break it.
Well, that's it.
So
well, the thing
I'm
is,
looking for the button to actually get the chat up here.
Oh, you can't see it in the Hangout. That's neither here nor there. I'm watching the chat for you. But the thing that's been asked, and we don't know if you've had a chance to speak to this lady about it, is the Wikipedia article. Now, did you have a chance to mention that?
Wikipedia wasn't brought up in the conversation. I can't say that it would have been. You've got to understand, I was looking at specifically at a UK focus. While I was trying to still give context of GT as a whole, because it is a worldwide movement, albeit majority of it is American-based, I specifically had to focus on UK, because keep in mind, she's only really going to be interested in the UK issue because that's all she's got jurisdiction over. Well, I say jurisdiction, that's probably not the right word, but she's only really going to take issue with an issue that's to do with a local constituent, so myself, and an issue that's within the UK. While there's still some UK links involving the Wikipedia debacle, in the sense of obviously they're referring to a lot of UK media that, like the Guardian, that have obviously spread all this nonsense.
Yeah.
It still seems to be mostly US based, contributors and editors that's obviously involved in the mess. So it's not really something that was going to come up. I had to focus specifically on the UK matter. So that was mostly the Guardian was the biggest one. I'd name dropped the Mirror.
Yes.
I always find the Mirror ironic how you have Martin Belam, who quite happily will obviously disparage Gamergate and how it's not about ethics and how could they possibly know about ethics. I'm thinking, well, neither does the Mirror Group. How much money did you have to give out earlier this year in the High Court because you admitted that you hacked phones of all these noted people just so you could get a story?
Oh, I know. The best news I had recently was when Martin Belam had been fired. I literally did a
fired for the Mirror Group.
Yeah, well, he was doing some sort of blog for the Mirror, whatever he was doing. And the whole thing was shut down.
Oh yeah, I read about them, yeah, but I didn't.
Such a jig.
Yeah, it was like he was like trying to do his equivalent of BuzzFeed. I read that on Guido Fawkes, that all kind of fell spectacularly on its arse. But yeah, so was it just that essentially he's ended? He's still with the Mirror Group.
I think he's still with the Mirror Group and he still does the odd article, but the entire blog that he was, part of or had any influence over shut down. Honest to God, I danced for about 5 minutes because I can't stand that guy. Yeah. To be honest, I mean, the problem I think we've got with a lot of the journalists is just the sheer ego, and that's the thing. This is why I'm an advocate of us talking to everyone that will listen. Because the people that don't have an ego about things will generally report the truth. Now, Milo, I'm not going to suggest for a second, doesn't have an ego.
I don't. You know what it is. I don't mind ego so much. I believe it was a line from the character Perry, Dr. Cox from Scrubs. He said, "Ego is good. Without it, you wouldn't have the need to get up in the morning to actually do what you do well. So to a certain extent, ego is fine. Ego is good." There's obviously a line, and you can debate where the line is. I'm sure it's different amongst other people, but there's probably a line where you say, okay, now you're an egomaniac, and now I don't want to give you the time of day. But
see, what I would say about Milo is it's not ego when you can back it up.
Oh, exactly. And you can. I mean, this is it. Time and time again. Regardless of what you think of, I mean, I know some people don't appreciate the way he kind of presents these articles. It doesn't bother me. I think it's hilarious. But he backs it up with the evidence, with the facts. If he didn't, then I wouldn't give him the time of day. But he backs it up with the facts and with the evidence.
Well, that's it.
I actually got in touch with them, because there was that whole deal when they thought that there was that incident last year, and they thought that someone had actually put pepper spray in the aircon. Can you remember that one? And it was claimed that it was as a result of Gamergate being there, and it was an anti-Gamergate. And I was like, well, I'm getting this information, and I'm only just effectively just a wannabe journalist. I'm not even near sort of journalist level. I haven't even taken any diploma. I'm interested in taking a journalism diploma, but I haven't even started yet. So I was only wannabe journalist at that point, so I couldn't possibly get any information to to verify or discredit that. So I got in touch with mine and say, hey, here's the thing that's happening. Can you look into it? And he said, yeah, no problem. Turns out, it was guff. It was smoke. The story wasn't true. So it's like, oh well, he could have easily come out and said, hey, this is a thing, but he wouldn't have backed it up. He basically just said, no, it's a story to ignore because it wasn't true. So this is it. So regardless of what you think of how he presents it, and I'm sure it rubs people the wrong way. You don't have to read them if that's not your cup of tea. That's fine. But he can back it up. And as you said, that's it. As long as someone can back it up, then we're all good. Doesn't matter what stripe from, what the mentality is, ideology, well, I prefer if they didn't have an ideology, but that's just me. But if they back it up, who cares? They've done the job. Yeah.
So I mean, I suppose the other question I have, and I don't know if the guys in the YouTube chat are going to bring it up at any point, but from this, obviously, the lady's not going to necessarily take any action as such.
Yeah.
But is there any action that can be taken through this route? Is there anything that we can do from governmental perspective, from even the small governments or whatever? Is there anything we can do there, or is it just a case of them being able to speak for us?
I think at this point it's a case of just getting someone, and I think that because she stressed that she was obviously willing to talk to me and was interested in knowing what was all about, but she's outright said she does not want to stand up in Parliament and speak for Gamergate because she said she wouldn't have any credibility whatsoever to do so. Even if we were to give her all the information that we have, she feels that she does not have enough credibility at all to stand up in Parliament. For example, if an early day motion was put out to say, hey, Gamergate is not a hate movement,
Right.
if that was an early day motion, she said she would not come out and do that because she's admitted, because she's not into the gaming culture, she's completely new to Gamergate and what it's all about, that she's freely admitted she has no credibility to stand up and speak on behalf of the movement, which is why she mentioned Tom Watson. And if you find any other MP that's kind of pro-gamer, rather than say pro-Gamergate, just pro-gamer that's, for the industry in the UK and for the consumer, and, all the rights that they should be, given as far as, like, purchasing and whatnot. As long as you find someone that's of that mentality, like a Tom Watson, then she said that's going to have legitimacy. That's going to, mean something, because they actually know what they're talking about, because they're into the culture. So, they could mention something and, they'll say something that'll be like, well, they've clearly got gamer cred, they know what they're talking about. So I think that's the idea. If you're going to get an MP involved in such a big way, it would have to be someone like a Tom Watson. And I stress again, don't start barraging Tom Watson with tweets because he's busy at the moment with the deputy leadership thing, so at least wait until after September.
Yeah.
But that kind of MP that has that sort of mentality of, hey, I like gaming, I game on myself on spare time. I love the industry, I love the culture. If you can find one, that's the one that you want to speak for you. But I don't think we're going to go down the route of an early day motion. I mean, it'd be great if we did. That would be the best case scenario. You get an all-party early day motion out in Parliament, which is, if anyone doesn't know what it is, it's simply just a case of Parliament. Someone in Parliament raises a topic. It doesn't necessarily go for a debate. It's just Parliament making a statement. It doesn't become law, doesn't become legislation. It's just Parliament making a statement. It's like the time when Tony Blair was in power, they had an early day motion for celebrating the life of Bill Hicks, who, I think it was like the 5th anniversary of his death, and they had an early day motion to say, hey, Bill Hicks was a great guy. He hated all of us, but hey, he was a funny comedian still, wasn't he? And it was just it was just a part, like, at the end of the session to say, hey, we want to acknowledge this, essentially. That's what an early day motion is. And an all-party one obviously would be better, because it's everyone involved. That would be the best case scenario, that you've got the whole Parliament come up and say, hey, look, regardless of what you hear, Gamergate is not a hate movement. But I don't think we're going to get that far. I don't want to build anyone's hopes up at all. That's the best case scenario. If it was to happen, I'd be ecstatic. I'd be, someone like me who can't move for shit, and I'll be doing jumping jacks and backflips and all sorts for the next week.
Now, if I'm remembering this correctly, and I don't do politics, so I'm probably not, but for the motions like that, groups can come in to speak on the issues, if I'm right about that, along with the MPs, or is that a different thing entirely?
No, the early day motion itself is done in the Houses of Parliament, so the only people that will actually talk is the members of Parliament. That's not to say, obviously, that the public can't come in. There's obviously a public gallery where obviously the public can witness Parliament in action. And in preparation for an early day motion, obviously groups can come in and obviously talk about a subject and raise awareness. Because the idea is you obviously want enough signatures from MPs to make the early day motion actually happen. Because if you don't, then it doesn't happen. So you need enough signatures to from MPs that are willing to speak on behalf of it in the session to do that. And they're obviously not going to be able to do it unless they have the information beforehand. So before that, there's a chance for groups and individuals to talk to MPs, wherever that be, whether it be back in their constituencies, if a meeting somehow gets made somewhere in the Houses of Parliament. Again, it's a bit far-fetched at this point, but if that were to happen, then yes, it would happen there. And then once they've got the information and they think, right, yes, okay, this is a cause I'm willing to speak for, then they would obviously start trying to get signatures enough to bring it to Parliament. I mean, most don't get many signatures. They don't really make a big deal. It's not usually a newsworthy item, but it would be newsworthy for us.
Well, the thing is, of course, we could push for it to be newsworthy. I mean, that's the thing. There are places that will report on it. The reason I bring this up is because obviously we need to know how we can influence the whole thing as people, as consumers, but also because then, like I say, we can look at that. We can say, right, we don't think this is attainable, but the amount of things that we have done that weren't considered attainable is mind blowing. You know, we managed to get 300 and odd people in DC. You know, and there's hundreds of people turning up to, you know, meetings around the world and things like that. We've taken over hashtags. We've made things trend in hours. We've raised so much money for so many things. You know, the charities, the Sea Lion, just, you know, anything that anyone's needed. These things are all things that people have said, no, you can't do that. You 300 people in your basements with sock puppets. So I'm of the opinion personally that when someone says this is a possibility, but it might not happen because I'm not sure we can do it, my response is challenge accepted.
Yeah, fair point. I'm not saying at all that it's an impossibility. I would probably just say that it's a possibility, but if you can make a go of it, great, and I'll be happy as much that it happens. I'd like to say it'd be one of the best days ever if that was actually to go down that route. I am a bit of a realist though, and maybe I'm just pessimistic, but it's an option, it's a possibility. If that's the route people think we can go down, and if you want to give it a go, fine. But it would start with individually talking with your MP, as I've done with this morning. Yeah. And then when they all convene, hey, well, you know, I've had this chat with this fella, you know, this person from the talks from Gamergate. Like, well, funny because I had one as well. And then you know, if it starts getting around, then you might get somewhere. But I don't think that's the route Jenny was suggesting that we actually take. If it's a possibility and if people want to make a go for it, I'm all for it. Go right ahead. If it happens, great. If not, well, you know, worth an effort. But I don't think that's what Jenny was suggesting. I think Jenny was pretty much aiming for, you need that organisation that's going to at least speak for you, because she respects the mentality of the leaderless Gamergate movement, and its setup, and it's you know, and I came out immediately with Occupy Wall Street. It's not obviously on the same scale, but the mentality of it, of just you know, we're not really trying to be an organisation. We're trying to avoid the whole sort of like named leader things, you know, because in the end it only just makes a mess and can easily be destroyed. So she at least appreciates and respects that mentality, but I think she was leaning towards the thought that you're not going to get anywhere without sort of an organisation. And I know we have organised, to be fair. I mean, we're all just people in a hashtag, but we have organised things. I mean, as you said, the meetup in DC was huge turnout, you know, and other ones, you know, continue to happen. So it's not like we can't organise, but I think she's working on the assumption that people aren't going to notice unless an organisation is actually going to voice you. And as you know, so she's at least said, and as we've alluded to earlier, if anyone's just joined in now, doesn't have to be the UK County Durham chapter of Gamergate UK. No. Not that. Doesn't have to be that organisation. It could very well just be an organisation that looks out for consumers in general, that just happens to speak on behalf of Gamergate because Gamergate are consumers. And then at least then, you know, an organisation like that should be, at least in theory, would be respected and at least get noticed, you know, and attention to, you know, various individuals of note, would it be MPs or whatever else, to at least then that the message is getting out there to say, hey, this is wrong, this is incorrect, you're disparaging and dehumanizing innocent people who literally want nothing more to do and just, you know, play games in their spare hours, you know, after a hard day's work. So, you know, and that's it. So
well, that's all we need, yeah. And the thing is, all we really need is to be able to have that voice. And that's where we're going to, you know, we're going to get everything.
I think that's effectively what she was aiming for, is more, if you can find a voice that can speak for you as an organisation, they don't necessarily have to be labelled. I think actually, I would be right in saying this is kind of what Mark Kern's looking at with the League of Gamers, isn't it? It's not a Gamergate organisation.
No.
It's mostly just consumer advocacy, isn't it? At least that's the impression I'm getting from it. I could be wrong.
As I understand it, is a consumer advocate organisation as well as a dev advocate organisation.
Right.
But I think there's going to be multiple sort of announcements from Mark about that.
Yeah.
From what
So,
I was reading.
So I get the impression, I think that's what she was suggesting, is if you have something like that, then people in theory are going to notice that and take notice. So they're not necessarily Gamergate UK, but they're speaking on behalf of consumers, which happen to be Gamergate supporters.
That's it. Now, there's a question again from the YouTube chat. I will do my best. So, it says there's a trend going on allowing some people to slander others and silence them by using shaming tactics, labeling them as misogynist, racist, and so on. And it's asking, do you think we're doing the right thing by standing up?
Absolutely. I mean, if you just stood there and take it and there wasn't any fight back, then, you know, they would be able to declare victory. If you didn't fight back at all, then we'd have been in a much worse position than we're in right now. I mean,
yeah.
I went in, you know, I almost went in thinking that, like, you know, we're kind of down in the dumps and, you know, we could really do this. I was thinking specifically just in the UK, because it's great whatever's happening in the movement across the world. I'm kind of concerned that, aside from the meets, obviously, like we've had the you know, 2 in London, we've got the 1 in Birmingham coming up.
Yeah.
In the UK specifically, there wasn't like a big thing that we're doing, like an SGP airplane meet, or what's happening in the Netherlands, you know, with that journalist meet. So I was kind of just going in with the mentality of, you know, we're kind of down the dumps. But I mean, honestly, how much have we achieved? How many victories have we had?
This is it. You know, I suppose the other thing. I mean, do we have something like the SPJ that we can talk to in the UK? Though that's the other question.
And that's the thing that concerned me, and what I was trying to at least get across. I don't know whether the message got across, but that's obviously what the aim was. Is that, well, we don't really have that here. Is there a chance of an avenue? Is there something out there? I mean, I might not know, because, you know, I went to on the premise of I might be wrong, and there might be something out there, and I've just been completely ignorant of it. So if you happen to know, but it sounds like all we've got in the UK is the Press Complaints Commission, which I have all the faith in the world in it, because, you know, it usually most times comes out with, you know, pretty good findings and whatnot. But
yeah,
we don't have that as an option, because they haven't slandered individuals by name. We're not an organisation with like a, you know, an actual proper organisation with like a base and HQ and this that and the other. It's just a hashtag, so they're not interested. So there isn't really that, unless, thinking about it, there is obviously it's just come to mind, this actually, that there is actually a National Union of Journalists in the UK. There is pretty much SG. I keep saying SPJ. SPJ, that's it. Sorry, I keep getting the bloody letters the wrong way around. That's kind of, it's not entirely a union in America, is it? But it's kind of like a sort of like, you know, union-like group with basically, obviously, you know, things are discussed and, you know, debated and this and the other. There is actually a National Union of Journalists in the UK. So that's a possible avenue, I suppose. I've not explored it. That's only just come into mind. But they don't really act as a regulatory body against newspapers as a whole. They might take issue with an individual journalist, or at least at least just offer up debate, maybe. But that's an idea, actually.
Well, that's the thing.
If anyone wants to go ahead with that, then that might be a possibility. I think we'd have to look into that, because I'm not entirely sure if they would do something similar to Airplay. But yes, there is a National UK Union of Journalists. They're the ones responsible for a lot of the supplying the journalist degrees and diplomas, actually.
And you see, the thing is, if we know that these people are acting in a unethical way, we can always take that to the National Union of Journalists and go, look, these are unethical happenings, and these people are repeating it verbatim and using it as a platform for their articles. That's not something they should be doing, is it? Politely reminding them that that's, you know, the thing. And of course, that, I suppose, is again another route to give us that voice and say, look, these people are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. We need someone to look at it. Yeah.
Now, again, I could be wrong. It could be a horrible idea, and that's not what they're there for. But again, this is the whole idea of me getting into the stream, is because, you know, I've had this meeting, and obviously it's garnered enough attention, you know, from people to say, hey, I've talked to an MP, but I can't speak for the whole group, because, one, I'm probably not full, you know, I'm not full of all the facts. to be fair, I think I kind of know a fair bit, obviously enough to talk about it, but I certainly don't want to speak for everyone and just say, right, this is what we're going to do. It's opening the floor up to say, hey, here's some ideas and some opportunities that's being suggested. Have at it. Come up with something, and then okay, yeah, we'll go for it then. So I don't know if it is an avenue, because it's only just coming to mind now that it exists. I've just in the back of my mind remembered that it's a thing, but I don't know whether it's an avenue you can take. But if you want to look into that and think, actually, we might have an avenue there, great, have at it.
Well, that's the thing. We can't hurt anything by asking. Yeah.
The worst they're going to say is no. The worst to say is, no, that's not what we do. And hope that they might give us advice and say, but you might be able to take it here, and they might be able to do what you're after.
Because the thing is, I mean, again, I appreciate, obviously, we're talking about just us in the UK here, but we need to remember that, you know, we can't do anything if we don't ask. We've got to push, and we've got to ask people. We've got to say, look, we've got this problem. Where can we go? What can we do with it? Obviously, the Americans have got, you know, the SPJ and all the things that they're doing, but we need to be able to also say, look, what do we do about this? How do we deal with these people?
Because it's happening all over the world. You know, it's not just America. We've got instances in the UK. You know, it was brought up in the Netherlands. You've got, you know, articles written in Denmark, Norway, that's just basically parroting the narrative. And you know, it's a case of, you know, each time wherever you are, it needs to be fought, because if it isn't, then that's the label that's going to be put on you, and it's going to make it difficult. I mean, that was the aim of the meeting, was to say, look, this dehumanization of supporters has effects. I like I say, I just about got into talking about, you know, how bad someone really got, to the point that they were attempting to take their own life.
Yeah.
You know, I managed to get that in just towards the end. You know, I kind of ran out of time, but I said that's how bad it got. I mean, in the original contact, I said it gets really bad to the point that I have to feel that I have to protect my job and my livelihood by going to my bosses and say, I'm going to have this meeting to talk about this, and this is the fight back that I might get. You know, they figure out who I am and put my information out there, and, you know, have someone ring up my work and say, you do know you've got, you know, such a misogynistic shitlord working for you. Which, that's, you know, given the job that I do, and because it's an educational establishment, it's a very serious accusation. You know, so
the other thing which has just come to mind as we were mentioning people across the continent is, of course, we do have the MEPs, the members of the European Parliament, who also can look at the issue, because, of course, then as it is a Europe-wide issue, it's a worldwide issue.
It is. Yeah.
We could always speak to the MEPs as well. If we're looking down the political route, as we are doing, because, of course, they will be able to take it then to the European Parliament, because some of these people are, as you rightly point out, writing for Dutch newspapers, for French newspapers, for Italian newspapers. They're doing it in every language available. So we may as well take everything in every language available to the European parliaments, to the local parliaments across Europe, to everywhere that will listen. And I think that's the other thing I wanted to stress while we're here anyways. Everyone that's listening, everyone that's paying attention, tell everyone to get involved. Tell everyone to go and find someone that will listen. You know, because that's the point, is one person can get an MP to listen. 10,000 people.
You get possibly 10,000 different MPs or MEPs to listen as well. And then they're all going to figure out, oh, hang on a minute, you've been talking. I've had this person talk about Gamergate. That's funny. So I've had a Gamergate person as well. So what's this all about? And then it's out there. It's known. Jenny could have turned me down, you know, and just said, I'm not interested in listening to this. But she said, no, I'm interested in listening to what you have to say. Come on in. You know, on Friday the 10th, I said, no problem. I'm on holiday at that time, so I've got more time in the world to come over. And she listened. She's, as I say, she's not. I don't think she's going to get fully involved in it. She's probably just going to maintain maybe just a subtle interest in it, not even a general interest. But you know, she knows about it now, and that's, you know, she's at least giving us the advice. I'm just so glad that I had the meeting this morning and someone was willing to listen to me about the subject. Because it's better than what we've probably had in the UK in particular. The movement has done wonders elsewhere, So I'm not disannounced, I'm not disparaging the victories that the movement has done in other places. In the UK specifically, just kind of felt like that, we hadn't had a chance yet to come out and say, hey, this is wrong. Can you listen to what our concerns are and give us advice, or on how we can actually deal with this? What route can we take? So it's more than, to be honest, what I felt that we've ever had in the UK in particular.
Yeah. That's it. And I think the other thing is, a lot of people, wherever they are, they would be incredibly surprised at the people that will listen.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, because the impression that is being given out by the journalists and by the people that are backing them is that no one wants to listen, no one cares, and that they're in control of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is so far from the truth. But we need people to, like yourself, to go and to make that leap and say, look, this person is willing to listen to me. All right, it's not the prime minister, it's not the president, it's not people that are on television every day, but these are people with influence, and these are people that will listen. And we need more of that.
Yeah, because I mean, Jenny will admit herself that she's not a named politician in the UK. Unless you're like really into politics, you'll not know who she is. She's pretty much as much of a backbencher as you're going to get. She's not in any sort of ministerial role. She's not involved in any committees, but she's respected amongst the party. She's respected amongst the constituency. She basically cakewalked the recent election. I couldn't actually have this meeting with her until obviously the election happened as well. I mean, I could have done this earlier, when Gamergate was a thing, but obviously they were in election mode, so technically she wasn't actually my MP for the longest time, because obviously Parliament's dissolved. So I've had to wait until after the election to do it now. But regardless of what position she is in Parliament, it's someone has at least, she's made the effort, at least put out, even if she's not going to take it much further, she's at least given me 45 minutes to an hour to talk about it, when I never had that opportunity before. Other than, my work colleagues and, who think the whole thing is just, well, they think the opposition's hilarious. I mean, if anyone's worried about, how bad academia is working, and I can't speak for all academia, but I work in an educational establishment. I've got experience dating back to 1998 of working between comp schools to universities, and I still have a number of contacts. And whenever because they obviously see me tweeting about it, and they say, well, what this is all about, and I talk to them about it, and then they're not really supporters, but they remain neutral. But if anything, they find the antics of the anti-side fucking hilarious.
Oh, they are.
Oh, just it. So if you think that all academia is ruined, no. There's a little bit of hope. There is elements of academia that consider the quote unquote academics of the anti-side to be jokes. It is there. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to put people in spots. And I'm only in a small section of the northeast of England, so it's not a huge number of universities and a lot, not a lot of known named people. But there's academics out there. They may not be Gamergate supporters, but they've seen the antics of what's happening on the other side, and they've just pointed and laughed along with me. So.
Which is good. That's what we need. We don't need to sit here and go, well, everyone must support Gamergate. That's not what we need. What we need is people to go, you guys are ridiculous. Shut up.
Yeah.
Come back with evidence, or just don't come back.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, because the thing is, the other thing I want to point out just quickly is, we don't want to silence these people. In fact, we want to let them speak as much as possible.
Oh yeah.
Because the more they do, the more ridiculous they will look.
Oh, they've been they have actually been the biggest success story of Gamergate than anyone, because all they had to do was just be themselves, and it was almost like an automatic win for us. It's just like all we had to do was just say, well, there you go, that's what they like. Yeah.
Now we've got another thing in the YouTube chat which is directed at you, so I'll just look. So we have to tell you that the best thing you did was to listen and be listened to by your peers, which I think is fair.
Yes.
Because that's the other thing. We need, I suppose, we need people to listen to everyone, and that's been a big part of a lot of what I've been hearing lately is, let's not just listen to the people with 10,000, 15,000 followers. Let's listen to these guys here as well. Because the last thing we want is to be a leaderless movement with people that are telling us what we're doing.
I've never been, I mean, this is me kind of being more general rather than being Gamergate specific. I've never really been one to give credence to someone on a forum, on a message board, on Twitter, whatever it is. I've never really given credence to someone with a huge post count or follower count, or like thumbs up number or whatever. I acknowledge, obviously, that a lot of people obviously appreciate what they're saying, so that, you know, it's a case of, well, okay, there must be something there interesting to look into, so I'll look into it. But I won't give them the credence just simply because of the number of posts they make and how many followers they got. It's all down to what they say and if they can back it up.
That's it. I suppose, like I saw a thing a few months back, which was the difference between the Chan attitude and the Goon attitude, you know, which is something awful forums.
Yeah.
And the Chan attitude is, we don't care who you are. When you step in, everyone is exactly the same, naked, scared, and alone.
Yeah. And everything's fair game.
Yeah. Whereas the Goon attitude is, this person's right because of who they are.
Yes.
And that is a terrible way to be.
Yeah, to respect the hierarchy. It's like, well, what did you do to earn that hierarchy, that position in the hierarchy? You know, I'm not a Chan user myself, admittedly. And to be honest, it's probably more of a time issue more than anything. I have so.
Oh, it's a time sink. It really
yeah. I mean, you know, the main reason I'm able to do this now, you know, rather than being able to do it early, is because, you know, I'm afforded time. I'm on 3 weeks holiday at the minute, so I've got more time than sense. But yeah, so I mean, Chan boards are not something I've kind of delved into or wanted to delve into. It even admittedly for someone like me, it's kind of scary almost. But it's a case of I understand the concept of it and I respect its concept and think, well, that's a much better way of doing stuff, at least than the other way, as you say with the Goon board. Because it's a case of, well, yeah, this person must be respected. Why? Well, because, you know, they've been here X number of years, they've done so many posts and have this many followers. Yeah, but what they're saying is ludicrous. Well, why should I give them credence? You know.
Precisely.
So yeah, I'm with you. I think we've obviously got the consensus there that it doesn't matter if someone's got 10,000 followers or someone like me that's only got a few hundred odd, and I've only made 2,000 odd tweets.
Yeah.
You know, it's what this. I mean, you know, not to blow myself up too much, but at least I think what I say, you know, has merit. At least.
Well, that's the thing.
And at least if I'm challenged, then I'll at least back it up. And if I can't, and I've actually made a mistake, then I say, okay, right, I fucked up there. You know, my bad.
Yeah.
You know. So well, yeah, it's you know, any voice matters if they can back it up with the evidence. You know, then that's it. I mean, you see the Christopher Hitchens you know, icon I've got here on Google and as on I have on Twitter. You know, I'm reminded of his famous line of what is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
That's it. So, I use that one so often. I mean, the thing is, you know, to give you an anecdote, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, you know, about the fact that you can go to the FBI cybercrime division if you think someone's, you know, libeling you online, and they're like, no, that's ridiculous, it's civil law, you don't know what you're talking about. This is a person who had several tens of thousands of followers and, you know, was working social media for some television station or other. And I just said, well, are these 17 states incorrect then? And would the FBI not check to make sure it's not a criminally actionable case? And they had no idea what to say. Like 5 minutes beforehand, they were saying, "Oh, it's pigeon chess," and I thought, well, to be honest, you've got to be careful you're not the pigeon when you're playing pigeon chess. And that's the thing, you know, we're taking baby steps now by talking to the people in places of power, in Parliament, in the higher echelons of the press. Yeah, and that's, I think, if I'm right about what you're telling us, that's what we need to do. We need to take the baby steps and just do it.
Yeah, this meeting this morning was not going to usher in anything major at all. The most I was expecting at all was just, you know, a friendly ear and, you know, hopefully some advice and some encouragement to say, if you do this, you might get somewhere, or explore this and you might get a result. That's all I was expecting. Yeah. That's what we got. I'm happy as much with that. That's a win. If I got more than that, you know, great. But that's all I was expecting. This wasn't going to be the airplay meet, which is huge. It wasn't going to be that, but it was just someone that was willing to listen and to just give that, you know, just have that friendly ear enough, even if they're not completely interested in the subject entirely, but just enough of interest to listen, to then give you advice and say, go down this route, explore this route, try this out. You might get a result as a result of this.
Precisely. I mean, the other thing is, I mean, everyone's hyped for AirPlay, and rightly so.
Yeah.
But I think we need to keep in mind that in and of itself, whereas it is a big thing, that's still a baby step.
Yes, that is not a final victory. That is not a final victory by any shape or form at all.
You know, because I know people are banking on it for several large things, and that's fine. We will get something out of it, but it's just a Lego block that we're building a house with. It's not the be-all and end-all of everything.
Yeah. It's a big Lego block. It's a good chunk.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is just a chunk of a larger goal. I did say the other day though, I am looking, and I'm hoping this is the case, that that they're actually going to do a Jeremy Paxton-like thing where they have the empty chairs for where the opposition should be. Well, we did invite them. There's the chairs. As you can see, they're empty.
Well, I know that's.
I will laugh gleefully if that actually does happen. So,
like, I don't understand that. I mean, you know, they're complaining that they weren't allowed to go, and it's kind of, well, you had the offer, and in fact, you had more of an offer than anyone in Gamergate got.
Yeah.
You know, you were offered a full free ride, and you declined it.
Yeah.
But now you're complaining that it's a hug box because you chose not to go.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you know, from the outside, if people don't know what we're about, that might seem reasonable that it's a hug box if you don't know anything else. But you look at that and you think, you're honestly going to try and tell people that you've chosen not to go somewhere, and now it's a hug box because you're not going.
Yeah.
Is that because that I don't.
All you could literally do if someone in the UK now that's listening in is inspired to go and talk to an MP, whatever the detail is that you're talking, you could use AirPlay and the I would say the mess on the other side, obviously that it is, as an example of, right, here we are, a discussion for both sides to talk to a panel of people that are completely unaware of what the movement's about and completely unaffiliated. That's going to take an objective look at what Gamergate is all about. There is a huge number, well, I say a huge number, but there's a good chunk of people that are coming to represent Gamergate. The offer was made to the anti-side to prove all of their assertions in an open forum, and they turned it down. And then after they turned it down, as you say, they then went on a bit of a whinge fest, saying, well, you've just created a hug box for everyone. You could just go to someone and say, that's what's happening. So do you want to talk to the people that's making the effort to defend themselves and to be scrutinised? And actually, that's it. It's one of the things, unfortunately, I didn't get to say this morning, and I kind of had the mentality of it. I said, you have two sets of people. You've got us on the Gamergate side who revel in being challenged. Challenge me, don't care. That's actually how that's how you debate. You have to be challenged and be able to actually, respond in, oh well, I'll back it up with this. Yeah. The other side does no. They just basically crawl up in a little ball and just get away from me. Give me my safe space and all that bullshit. Well, and it's so you go to someone else and say, right, well, who do you want to talk to more? Do you want to talk to them that any snifter of dissension or questioning, they're going to basically just have a shit fit and then basically run away, screaming and crying, or do you want to talk to the people that say, hey, the fact that we there was the incident with Republican Catherine Clark in America. She wanted the FBI involved in investigating Gamergate. What did we say? We said, come at me, bro. Come at me, bro. We've got nothing to hide, but we've got a lot to show.
Well, that's it. I mean, we literally could have just stretched across the fucking Atlantic, holding hands whilst chanting, come at me, bro, when that happened. And that's
I would have said, look, I know the FBI has no restriction in the UK, but if you want to come over and talk to us, by all means.
Go to the
I don't care.
Go to the Metropolitan Police and ask them about me. I'm quite happy to do so.
We, the movement, said, yeah, go on, come, ask us questions. We don't mind. We've got nothing to hide, but we've got plenty to share. And then the other side weren't interested. It's like, oh no, don't really want to talk about this. I did get to mention this morning. I said, the response tends to be, how dare you give these people airtime to actually speak? You shouldn't, because they're, you know, non-people and subhuman and this and the other. So, you know, so I did get to point that out. But that's it. If you just point out to someone, that's the mentality of them, and this is the mentality of the other side, of what we represent. We're willing to be put under a microscope to a point, to, you know, I know obviously we're forever, you know, challenging the assertion that we're, you know, a harassment group and misogynists and racists and, you know, all this bollocks. You know, I know it gets tiring, but at least, you know, our mentality has always been, scrutinise us, challenge us. Yeah. We don't mind. We can back it up.
That's it.
Is these are the kind of people you want to talk to? This is people. I'm referring to, obviously, people not aware of Gamergate that you're talking to, you know, whether it be an MP or someone of any other influence or notoriety. So that's the mentality of the antis. They'll crawl up into a little ball if you ask them anything to just basically prove anything. And there's our side. Who's the more reasonable? Who's the more presentable, and, you know, the one that you're willing to have a conversation with?
No, because the YouTube chat are on about a similar thing, you know, that about the antis. Now, to bring it into what the YouTube chat are on about, some anti-Gamergate people did offer a go. That is to say, people like Stone Mirror and some other people. Now, the problem I have personally with that, and I'll see whether or not you agree here, the problem I have is Stone Mirror, A Man in Black, people like that, they're ex-goons, and all they want to do is push the discussion at these people are harassed, these people are harassed, this says so, and bring some out-of-context nonsense to waste time talking about this angle that has nothing to do with anything.
Well, yeah, because that's all they've got. They haven't got anything else. That's what they want to push, and they want a free payday out of it. What was it? Man in Black, who I kind of blocked. I mean, I blocked his account. I think pretty much within the first 2 weeks of like Gamergate really kicking off, and you know, in like essentially September and whatnot, because it was quite obvious that you know, this is a rancid troll that I didn't want to waste any time with.
Yeah.
You know, but he was the one, I think, that was wanting $3,000, wasn't it? Or something ridiculous like that?
30,000.
30,000, sorry. It was more ridiculous then.
Yeah, it was.
It was a 3, but it was more ridiculous. Yeah, well, you know, all you have to do is, in response, all you have to do is just hold that up as an example and just say, there, that's the opposition.
Well, what I liked recently, over the past day or so now, Stone Mirror specifically, this is a guy that had a screenshot of potentially, and this is the keyword, potentially what could have been some data, RE, Gamergate tweets, etc., but could also have been a man that just put dots and lines on a piece of paper, took a picture of it. You know, it's kind of like, well, do you know, if you had this evidence, if you had all this proof that Gamergate is what you're now saying it is, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because everyone would have gone, oh no.
Well, I don't want any part of that if that was really the case.
Exactly.
Which it isn't. And even if it was, okay, congratulations, you found one. That's 1 in 7 million. Got any more? Because 1 in 7 million is not even an atom in a speck of dust in the Sahara.
That's it. Yeah, and I don't understand it, because I think what may have happened is that they were assuming if they didn't turn up, Airplay would have just not gone ahead, and they weren't expecting Koretsky to call their bluff and go, well, don't turn up then.
Yeah.
That's fine.
No, I agree entirely that it was of concern that it was non-journalists that were turning up. Because as much as I would like to go just to experience it, I wouldn't put myself forward, because I'm not a journalist. I'm just some, you know, just some schmoan bloody northeast of Durham, you know, bloody descendant of a pit lad. I'm, you know, just a rando.
Now you say that, I would like to see, you know, a group of people that aren't journalists, that aren't big names, sit and talk about it, because I think, you know, on the one hand, you'd have these people from Anti-Gamergate who have nothing. And on the other hand, you'd have randos like, say, yourself, or, you know, Mournblade. Not Mournblade, he's Scottish, he's drunk, not the point. But, you know, just random people from our side.
They're the best talks when they're drunk.
Oh, well, but you know, it's just randoms.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, just, you know, just random people to go, well, look, here's a bunch of evidence, because as I understand it, Oliver's taken a projector to Airplay.
Yeah.
You know, and the one thing I would like to see personally is Oliver go and get the information that's going to be on that projector verified by all the journalists that are relevant before it's shown. You know, so all the people that are there to arbitrate or judge or however they're putting it. Because then when you can say all this evidence is verified. Here's a room of journalists. This is what we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's going to be good.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm game for, if I've got the time, if I'm afforded the time to talk to anyone about it, really. But I agree with the sentiment that airplay specifically probably should be journalist specific. So it was a concern that on the anti-side there wasn't any journalists going to be involved potentially. But having said that, it would also kind of work in our favour to say, well, the journalists didn't want to defend themselves, so what are they trying to hide? What are they scared of defending that they send trolls from Twitter?
Exactly. I mean, the only other concern I have, and I brought it up in the stream with Koretsky when we're on there, is, we've got this issue where the SPJ, yes, can take this and they can look at everything, and the journalists will be then aware of all the nonsense that's gone on. But what can we really do about it after that? Because the SPJ, to an extent, has no teeth.
Yeah.
They can't take any of the journalists to task.
No,
that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'd like to see, and again, I want your input here, is, something that can have those teeth, something that can say, right, this person is no longer allowed to put articles anywhere. They can have a blog post, but they're not allowed to work for any organisation that considers itself journalism.
I don't know if I would agree with going that far.
Not necessarily that extreme in every case, but
no. I wouldn't probably go to that extreme in any case. I wouldn't want to come across as someone that says this person must be blacklisted from the industry, because we're already getting that accusation as it is anyway, that we're trying to blacklist people, and and it's something that the other side is obviously clearly doing as well, and have done, well, a hell of a lot more than what we've allegedly done anyway. So I probably wouldn't want to go to that extreme even with the worst offender. Okay. My point of view would be just as long as it's open out in the air, this is what they did, they can suffer the consequences that, people might think, I'm not inclined to actually give this person employment or, give them time because they have a bad rep. But I wouldn't want to blacklist people or basically make, to the point where, effectively they're going to be struggling for food, something. I don't want to go that far. I don't wish the worst on, on people, some people, but we're talking like maniacal, tyrants, fuck them, they can die a horrible flaming death for all I care. But, people on the other side are still human beings in the end of the day. This is where the humanism comes in. It might come sloppy and whatever, but yeah, raise how bad they've basically treated people. And the mistakes that they've made, the improprieties that they've done, but then just leave it up to consequence there, that it's a case of, right, hopefully you'll have sites that say, right, well, we don't want to do business with this person because they've got a bad rep, unless they make amends and try and, I mean, admittedly I'm not that much of a forgiving person because I've become very cynical, and I know Ian Miles Chong recently has made quite the effort. I appreciate his effort into, renouncing what he's done, or at least repenting for what he's done, previously, and realizing that he made a mistake. I can't say that I still fully trust him. No. I respect that he's making the effort, and I appreciate that he's going out there and coming out with stuff that's a little bit more agreeable. But that I don't necessarily still trust him anymore to give him that much time of a day. But that's as far as I'll go. I mean, I don't want him or people like that would be entirely removed from the industry. Unless, of course, you have a situation of that's the consequence. No one will employ them. To be fair, there'll always be someone that will want to employ them and make use of them. Well, but then it's a case of, well, do we actually want to give business to that site? No, we don't. We're already blacklisting, boycotting. Whatever you want to call it, we're just not visiting sites. Or at least there's some that's making the effort to go to advertise and say, hey, we're not giving any of this site any business because they're kind of shitting on us. So, if you're okay with that, then we're not going to give you any business. And, well, obviously, that's... I think it's a slightly different tactic, but...
Yeah.
I
suppose the other side...
I wouldn't want to cross the line of having someone come across as blacklisted entirely. Because I think I wouldn't be comfortable with that.
The other side of the coin, and the one I'd prefer, to be quite honest, is looking at something now. For those of you who have never had an 80s Nintendo game, this won't make any sense, but something akin to, the seal of approval.
Yeah.
If you've got an organisation that is for journalistic ethics and for doing things the right way, giving people a seal of approval when they're doing that and taking it away when they're not, that's the other way of doing it. You can kind of say, well, yes, you're a journalist, but we know you've done X, Y, and Z, so until you can prove that you have the integrity to get said,
because it wouldn't be the be-all and end-all of the site's existence. They could probably exist without it, but if it's a seal that everyone respects and it's not there, then it's a case of, well, do I really want to trust this source?
Precisely. Now that
and then obviously, like I say, the consequences is that they do run out of business. But that's not us driving them out. That's us just making the choice of, well, we just don't want to view you. We'll take our business elsewhere. Capitalism, it just fucking works.
Sorry, I think the dog's seen someone outside. As he does. No, but that's the thing. I'd like to see that, because if we can get a seal of approval for people that do show the ethical things the right way, and that do the research and do the legwork, that is a much bigger incentive to me than anything negative. It's carrot and stick theory. I'd rather give them a carrot. This is what we can do if you don't shit on your reader base. If you don't call them all terrible names based on 3 tweets from someone who's done one game. I mean, the other thing I'd said to Koretsky was, well, if we're listening to two devs, and one person that's doing a YouTube series. Now, these devs between them have made 2 games that I'm aware of, and I did that in the 90s with Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit on the Amiga.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe I'm now the game industry. Where do we bring that in? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny actually, because it's reminding us actually of the meeting this morning. I think Jenny at some point was kind of not clear as to who I was actually speaking for. She was thinking that I was actually speaking for the industry. Like, no, I am not the game industry. I am nothing but a consumer. That's it. My role in the industry is I buy a product and hope that it's good. And if it is, I keep it. And if I don't, I want my money back.
Yeah.
And that's it. And if it is good, I'll sing its praises so that, and say, hey, you want to check this out, maybe, because it's pretty cool, and I might join you online with it and whatnot. But that's my role in the game industry, and that's it. I just speak as a consumer and nothing else. So, but yeah, again, it's a case of, if you're going to listen to devs, well, listen to more than those 2 devs who make a fuss and a carry on about supposedly things that are going on, and then, it'd be nice. Again, it would be nice in a situation where someone actually says, all right, okay, you're making this accusation, okay, back it up. When I mean, if we're going to mention the 2 devs, I'm assuming one of them is Brianna Wu.
Yeah, so we've got 2 devs now. The people that have been classed as devs: Brianna Wu and Zoe Quinn.
Okay, well, this is where we're getting personal with Brianna Wu. The main, obviously, it's kind of lost with a lot of people that look at Gamergate. I mean, obviously, us in Gamergate know exactly how she got into it in the first place. Well, again, you might correct me if I'm wrong here. How she got into it was she took an image from a guide about dealing with autistic children, and then basically tried to turn it into a meme to attack Gamergate supporters as if they were autistic, as if that there's something like really bad and wrong with being autistic.
Well, the story as I understand it is that she wasn't aware, in her words, that was an autistic child, and that was from
that's what she's
that place.
Yeah. The impression I was still getting from the way the memes were generated is that, and well, okay, I might be wrong. It might not have come from her, but I have seen one of the things leveled at Gamergate is, oh, this is just autistic children. Is it? Well, what's exactly wrong with being autistic? Are you suggesting there's someone with being autistic, or is someone suggesting there's someone with you being, someone with Down syndrome? I mean, for someone that works in education that does actually deal with autistic, people on the autistic spectrum, that's very, very disheartening. I have to work in a very particular way if dealing with someone that is on the autistic spectrum, heavily so. You have to deal with them a very certain way, and I basically respect that knowledge that's passed to me, And I have actually had to deal with situations where I mean I'm not a teacher. I don't want anyone to think I'm an educator at the establishment. I'm just support. I'm more tech.
Yeah.
I get involved in the education to a point where I have to build the tech that they're going to use for the education, but I support students, and there's been certain situations where I have to deal with students with learning difficulties, and I have to be aware to do it in a certain way. So I don't appreciate just on that sense as someone disparaging, you know, people as if they're autistic, as if there's something wrong with that.
I mean,
and then on a personal level, and you know, sorry to butt in here, but
no, go on.
Where it gets to me personally, I have a 21-year-old cousin, Michael, who was heavily down the autistic spectrum to the point where he is probably never going to be able to live his own life. He's going to need constant supervision to the day he dies. He's gone through you know, a specialist school in the UK, here in the UK, very good school, very reputable. They've given him a load of support. He's come away with whatever, you know, qualifications he can in the situation he's in. But he's going to need supervision for the rest of his life, because that's how he can't form a sentence. You know, he can form a coherent sentence with a bit of effort, but he can't say it. He shouts it. Everything he does, he shouts. You know, and he still needs encouragement to actually form the sentence. He can, and he's at the point where he's been able to form sentences. He's made great strides, and we're really proud of him for that. But he can't speak. He shouts everything. So he's going to need concentration. So it obviously hurts me personally when I've got a family member that's that heavily autistic. For someone to disparage someone, you know, for people like that, as if it's like, oh well, you know, it's just, you know, that's what they're all like, and you know, we just basically ignore them and treat them like dirt because of it. It's a case of that's not what autistic people are like, and you know, that infuriates me. So apologies to Mr. Wolf, I'm getting it wrong. But that was the impression I was getting, certainly, with the way she injected herself initially into Gamergate in the first place.
Well, yeah.
With the way it was being presented, and I obviously didn't appreciate that. Now, I've never spoken to her directly. I've never tweeted directly. I've got no intention to. I'm not really one for directly contacting anyone, to be quite honest. To just leave and be and just kind of point and laugh in a distance. But that situation did infuriate me, and. Yeah. You know, so you know, that is like, you know, okay, with that situation, I'm not laughing and joking about it, to be honest.
No,
I really don't appreciate that one.
Understandably, I mean, to sort of bring it back round to the point we're making here. I mean, you've got the so-called devs, you know, who, like I say, 2 games between them, who are dominating the issue in the press. Now, what I'd like to see, you know, is for the press to speak to one of the literally hundreds, if not thousands, of other female devs. I mean, you know, as I understand it now, I don't know about Galactic Civilizations 3, but I know Galactic Civilizations 1 and 2, their lead dev was a lady.
Yep.
I mean, I know she's not necessarily making games anymore that I'm aware of. I might be wrong, and the YouTube chat's probably going to savage me if I am, but Roberta Williams, to give an example.
I brought up Roberta Williams with Jenny this morning. You know, when it was Jenny actually did come out and say, well, there is a disparity in gaming between male and females, and I did correct her on that. As far as, well, initially when it came to the consumers, I says, actually, no, when it comes to consumers, it's mostly 50-50 split, barring that there's still a disparity in the types of games they play. You might get majority females still play a lot of the casual mobile games, but it's still games.
Yes, it is.
They don't call themselves gamers, as far as I'm concerned. They're not a hardcore gamer. You can separate them into subsets like that, but they're still a gamer. At the end of the day, and then you've got your hardcore group, which still has a lot of women in, you know. But she said, but the industry though. I says, well, I can't speak for the industry. I'm not in it. Nobody's really, to my knowledge, nobody's come up with a study to you know, to say. But I think it's improving, certainly. And I said they've been there, and I said Roberta Williams has been in the industry for 20+ years, and is credited not just as a game developer, but as someone that actually invented a genre of games.
Exactly.
And is highly respected as a result. So I said, look, you could go to her. And there is, you know, someone that is held in high esteem in the industry, not because she's a woman. She happens to be a woman, but she generated a genre of games.
This is it. I mean, you know, there's been conversations. I think it was Christian Allen, I'm not sure. Someone that worked on one of the Call of Duty games anyway, you know, saying, oh, well, yeah, fine, people are saying mean words to you on the internet, but I had to have a team of 11 SAS soldiers protect me because I made something slightly it was slightly disliked in a Call of Duty game, and people were going to actually kill me. I don't think mean words on the internet are quite the same.
Yeah.
And I'm on board with that.
Mean words on they can try and liken it to as much as they want, but mean words on the internet does not equate anywhere close to what happened to Charlie Hebdo earlier this year.
Precisely. That's the thing is, you've got mean words on the internet. Everyone gets mean words on the internet. Everyone that puts themselves in the public eye will get mean words on the internet. No ifs, no buts. But to pretend that's a bigger issue than it is ridiculous. As we keep repeating, the only credible threat that the FBI have had, and that any law enforcement agency have had, to my knowledge at least, is the one from anti-Gamergate that was a bomb threat in DC. So to continue the point of, we're harassers, we do this, we do this, and we don't like these people, is ridiculous at this point. It's so far from reality. It's unbelievable. Now then, I'm not sure what's happened here. I can't hear a thing. This is not good. We appear to have lost Jodis. Good. This is good. I enjoy the technical difficulties. Right, that would explain why I've not had anything for a couple of minutes. And right, ladies and gents, I'm going to try and get him back. Bear with me.
And we're back.
There we go. I was concerned. I thought I'd honestly gone deaf for a second.
Yeah, I was wondering what the hell went happened there. I'm going to assume it was something at my end because I tried to DM you to say have we lost the stream, and it failed to send that. So thank you very much, Virgin Media.
Oh, we love Virgin Media.
To be fair, I've maybe in the 5 years since I've been with them, I'm on the fibre network, and I probably can only count one day out of the 5 years that I had like a full day outage. And to be honest, I phoned them up and I said, look, I'm a tech, so don't give me the BS. I've already done trace route checks and this, that, and the other. So I think it's something at your end rather than mine. They took it on board. Actually, they said we'll give you a call back. They phoned me back, and then I had a 3-way conversation between the guy at the call centre and the engineer saying, "Can you do some other checks for us?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." We did it. They had found that it was a problem in an exchange in Manchester. They had it fixed on midnight. So I know they get a bit of a bad rep with most people, but they've been all right with me on occasion. But yeah, I get the odd blip. But there we go.
These things happen. And to be honest, it wouldn't be one of our streams if things didn't go wrong occasionally.
Yeah.
So, but what we're saying, so yeah, the thing is, like I say, obviously, you've got these people who take these mean words on the internet and they go, well, oh, it's a terrible thing. I'm so,
Yeah, I don't know how far did I get to like the comment. I was making the comment that I find it really absurdly stupid for anyone to equate someone saying something, maybe crass towards them online, because at the end of the day they actually did say something dimensionally stupid, to Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah,
that's a non-trivial gap between that altogether, and it's just silly for anyone to suggest otherwise, that saying something mean online is devastating to you. It's a case of, so what? It's someone online. I mean, I made the post on KIA that I was having this meeting with with Jenny, this morning. This is about a month ago. I made the post and I said, right, hey, this is happening. Can you help me out with any links and whatnot, and any advice? Greatly appreciated. Of course, someone that ventures on Ghazi found out about it and started jabbing us, or attempting to jab us. Anyone was like, what is that it?
Well, that's
You know,
the thing.
you can if you look at it. I mean, I know there's a Reddit blackout today, or like the boycott or whatever else going on. I'm not a big Reddit user, so
No,
I know the shitstorm that's going on, and I get an idea of
yeah.
like all the mess that is. But I'm not a big Reddit user, so I'm not totally into what's going on. I know there's something going on down today where they're basically just blacking out entirely.
Yeah, as I understand it, things are supposed to be going private. There's supposed to be a blackout, and everyone's going to vote.
Yeah. Okay. If you happen to see the thread on KIA of me, obviously pointing out that I was having this meeting, you can see like someone having a go, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I give as good as I take.
But that's the thing. Anyone that's played Halo ever, under any circumstances, has had a 13-year-old tell them that they're going to, fornicate with the mother, and that's fine. That happens. To pretend that that's a bigger issue than it is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and if you get a situation like that and you don't appreciate it, just kick them out the call. I had one where I forget the game we were playing. It was on Xbox Live, and they enter in, and it sounded like a kid. It might have been someone that would probably be no more than 11-year-old, and he didn't even say hi. It was just he was immediately coming in and going, white supremacy, KKK, down with the blacks, and all this sort of bullshit. And that's all he was saying. He wasn't making a coherent sentence. He was just saying phrases in order to garner a reaction. And our response is, whatever, bye, Felicia. And we just kicked him out.
That's it.
I mean, and we thought nothing of it. We just carried on. It was like, whatever.
And that's the thing. It's very difficult for me to make that logical leap of people have said mean things. I need to fear for my life, especially from people that were announcing they were going to be on holiday at the same time that happened.
Yeah,
I just can't do it, And the other thing that I'll touch on really briefly with you that gets on my nerves at least is, you've got these people saying that we need special treatment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Milo had that discussion with Dr. Grossman the other week on Sky News.
Yep.
And he was saying to her, he said to her, well, we don't complain when ladies dominate nursing. Why are we complaining when men dominate physics?
Mm-hmm.
And this, I think, it's tangentially relevant, granted, but it's kind of why are we complaining? Why are we trying to force the issue? And it comes back to that whole representation in the industry thing.
Mm-hmm.
If there are more males than females that want to be in the games industry, why is that a problem if there's no barrier to entry? You see what I'm saying? It's weird.
I mean, obviously, now we're getting into sort of like Sargon territory of obviously, tackling sort of the extreme feminism that's going on, not the sort of feminism that my mother would have associated with in the 70s, which would be more like the feminism that Christina Hoff Sommers is attributed to. I mean, personally, for me, I don't espouse the ideology, but I don't espouse any ideology. I am not. I have ideals. I'm an egalitarian and a humanist, which I know for the staunch feminists that's the equivalent of being a racist shitlord. But
I think that makes you the devil.
Pretty much. Thank God I'm an atheist. So, I mean, this is. I mean, I have the ideals, but I don't have the ideology. Ideology has this, a common problem of kind of running into the brick wall of reality. So that's why I just don't entertain it as something to follow and to something that I kind of respect. So, okay, I acknowledge it is part of the form of your debate, but I would say that's actually half your problem. That's your ideology talking, and it's just the ideology talking, and it isn't really based on fact and reality. And the fact that you think that this is how everyone else feels, when really either one, they don't because they know what the truth is, or two, actually they don't care because it's like a non-issue, or they've got better things to worry about, or they're just completely ignorant to the situation because they're looking at something else.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot recently of people saying to the social justice types, and I don't want to stay on the subject too long because I know people will crucify us. But
I know there was a huge hoo-ha about it last night with some people.
Right.
Really
so I'm not
wanting us to talk about.
Yeah.
I respect people that there's been a few people that say they don't want to associate with Gamergate, or they don't want to use the tag because they feel that it's put too much focus on that, and they would just wish about the ethics. I'm okay with that. If that's the choice they want to make, and they want to go about business in another way, I don't begrudge them at all. You know,
I mean, I think our position here is do whatever you feel needs to be done, be that
yeah,
fighting the unethical journalism or fighting social justice types. As long as we get to the same goal,
yeah, yeah.
that's the main thing.
But I mean, I'm game for talking about anything. You know, I'll talk any sort of random bollocks, you know, just for the hell of it anyway.
Well, that's it.
You know, so just.
But
It is, to be honest, it is bound to come up because that is the effectively that is the label of people that we are dealing with mostly in the opposition. So it's bound to come up in conversation. If you want to avoid being the focus of the conversation, I'm all fine for that. But it's bound to come up in conversation. That's the kind of people we're dealing with, and the mentality they bring, which is a mentality that is just. I mean, I literally liken them. I mean, it's funny because they call us the conspiracy theorists, and yet I actually dealt with 9/11 truthers, and you know, in 2007 when that reached its peak, and basically dissipated into nothingness, of a group of people that, you know, just weren't. If you weren't with them, then you were CIA, you were PSYOP, and this, that, and the other, and all this sort of bullshit, and it mirrors exactly.
I mean, the
fact that you say 9/11 is not an inside job, you're working for the Illuminati. The fact that you're suggesting that you know, women are being denied roles in STEM, you're working for the patriarchy. You can swap the two.
Yeah, I'm quite sure, to be perfectly honest, that they may have run out of tinfoil in San Francisco.
Oh yeah, well, I actually saw something the other day. Then someone actually said there is something in the air. That's how they get a particular taste in
the sourdough.
Yeah, that's the sourdough. Yeah, that's how they get it. Because there was what was it? There was something. The water was contaminated, so there was something in the water as well. I think that was what, November.
Yep.
Sorry. So, San Fran. I always find it hilarious actually when. I mean, obviously this wasn't San Francisco, but it was the guy that went on a tirade with Total Biscuit, and he was based out of Seattle, like the up end of Seattle. Total Biscuit's from my end of the country, from Spennymoor. To me, Total Biscuit's posh because he lived in Spennymoor, and I was a doggy lad. I was in the village over from Spennymoor that was really poor. You know, so you lived in Spenny, or you were a posh twat. Yeah. You know? So for me, yeah, he was the posh one, and right, and I say that, and I say it jokingly, but it was funny how a guy from uptown Seattle is about as privileged as you can get. That a Spenny lad was needed to check his privileges. Like
it's ridiculous.
It's I mean, you know, this is the Northeast. This is like, you know, the place that was devastated in the 80s because of all the, you know, the disasters of, like, you know, the miners' strike and whatnot, and all the class warfare going on there, for crying out loud. You know,
well, that's it. I mean,
you can't rub bullshit in our eyes. You know, we went through all that. We know what this place is like. It's still to this day struggling in certain areas. It's not privileged at all. It's not privileged at all. I live well in the means. I'm not incredibly rich. I'm not exactly. I'm probably lower middle class, what you would call, but that's it. Any major catastrophe happened with my house. I mean, there was an issue with my kitchen recently. Thankfully, it was an insurance job, because that would have brought my bank, and I'd be knackered. You know.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I personally am from the let's say the less affluent end of West Yorkshire.
Yeah.
You know, and despite being able to put on the nice posh voice, I'm fucking skint constantly.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, it's one of these things that to bring it back to what I was going to say is there's a lot now of people that are, you know, not white, rich, middle class San Francisco hipsters. They're kind of saying, why are these people doing all the talking for us?
Yeah.
You know, why is it that we can't get, you know, let's say, for sake of argument, why can't we get a black lesbian from Baltimore to come up and talk about things from Baltimore, you know, and the riots and things like that? Oh, that's right, because white San Franciscans are talking for us. You can think, well, okay.
Yeah, because they want the attention, they want the prestige and the money.
Precisely. Now, I bring that up because just recently in the YouTube chat, we'd had a thing about the news outlets changing the tone of what they're saying and moving on to now we're post Gamergate and other such terms.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, and I think these guys are right in that they are trying to shift their position because they can see the narrative changing round and going in the other direction. I mean, I said a thing the other day, the court of public opinion is going to come for these people.
Yeah.
And it's going to be soon. And
well, there's still now talking about Tim Hunt. I mean, it's not. I appreciate this is not Gamergate, but and you know it's only
Again,
somewhat linked to the SJW mentality, but they're still talking about Tim Hunt now, and now that it's come out that actually he didn't really say what he actually said, or at least he said it, but the full context was he was treating it as a joke that of what other people might say, which would be wrong.
Yeah.
And now it's a situation of, well, they've let him go, and it's a case of now they've got to turn face and kind of let him back in and kind of apologise.
Well,
and on the flip side, you've got young lady at Goldsmith who was allowed to keep her job.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. UCL have made a statement. I've not read it yet. I've not had a chance, but basically Tim Hunt has said, "No, I'm not going back." Which,
right.
I think is fair, because if they're going to kick him out over something that some woman who claims to be a journalist but has a CV with possibly more bullshit than I see walking past farms every day, I think that's fair. It's kind of, well, this is a Nobel Prize winner. This is a man who's been a science laureate. This is a man who's done more in his life for science than most of us could ever hope to between us.
Yep.
And you're going to take the word of this woman that's got a barely coherent CV that claims to have written for places that have no idea who she is, and you're gonna ask him to step down. Yeah,
not too right. I'm going to go back to them. And what it does is it puts them now continuing in the defensive of like, well, why should anyone else do any business with you? You did this, and the consequences. We're going to question. Students, prospective students are going to question potentially whether we want to go to this place because its reputation's been sullied. Anyone else who wants to do business with them, other staff, if basically the situation is, well, he doesn't want to come back. You've burnt the bridge so much that he's not going to come back. Well, and we're on his side. We'll look elsewhere and we'll take our talents elsewhere.
Precisely.
In a really bad situation. So yeah, I agree. There's definitely. I tell you what, they'll probably be moving on to next. They'll be all having to go at Eli Roth there for the movie that's coming out, because he's actually come out and said, yes, this is pretty much a go at SJWs because I'm sick of that bullshit. I mean, that's not his exact words, but it's words to paraphrase.
Yeah.
So they'll be probably moving on to him next.
Oh, I would have thought so.
If not, trying to make up the stance that we're all hating the Ghostbusters movie because it's all females. It's like, no, I'm not watching it because it's you're doing a Rule 69 reboot. I'm not interested.
Well, there's that. I mean, have you seen the latest stills from that?
I have, yeah.
Terrible.
I look. This is my stance on that. I mean, again, danger of getting away from Gamergate here, and I'm sure we'll try and bring the conversation back to that. But just on that, my stance is, because I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan. That was my life in the 80s. As a child in the 80s, that was it. It was that, and then Ninja Turtles, and then. But I always went back to Ghostbusters. I could probably recite the movie line for line. I've watched it that many times. My stance has been, I wasn't fussed that it was an all-female cast. If it was a brand new story with the brand new original characters, I would go watch it, because it's a new fucking Ghostbusters movie. I'll go see it. We've been dying for something for years, and unfortunately we weren't going to likely get it, with the original cast now, with the tragic passing of Harold Ramis. But I would take anything. If it was an original story, if it had been a new set of, a new franchise elsewhere in the country, it just happened to be all female, I'd have gone see it regardless, because it's a new Ghostbusters story. The fact that they said, this is a reboot and we're gender swapping them, I'm not interested. For some reason, it's just a gimmick. It's not that it's because it's all female. So you're just doing it as a gimmick. I'm not interested in gimmicks. Unless it's pro wrestling.
Well,
that's as far as I go for gimmicks.
Yeah, that's more than fair.
Yeah,
they are, as I understand it, also doing a reboot with some guys as well.
Yeah.
So they're doing a male reboot as well. But it just, honestly, my problem with it is it looks like a really bad Saturday Night Live parody, and that's not what I want.
Yeah.
But as it is nearly 3 o'clock and we've had people's attention for 2 hours and I have to go pick people up from school, I'll try and bring things back to where they are. So, to summarise what we've been talking about for those people that have literally just turned up now, you poor bastards. So what we're saying is that,
I'll never get invited to this again.
Oh, neither will I, most likely. But so the point is, we've got this MP Jenny Chapman. She's listened. That's the main thing. Wherever you are in, be it the UK, be it Europe, be it America, wherever, we can find people to listen to us, and we need to take these baby steps. That's the thrust of what we've got this morning out of it. And yes, they might want an organisation to speak to them on our behalf, but if we can find those consumer organisations, we can go to them. We can have them say, "Look, this is the situation. This is the lie that's being spread. Go and have a word."
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just going to second that. It's a case of that's all it was. This wasn't anywhere close to like an airplay or anything like this. It was simply just, and it was always just a case of getting a sympathetic ear just to listen to me for 45 minutes as it was, to say, this Gamergate exists. This is the gist of it. This is the problems we've got in specifically the UK in the situation. Mm-hmm. And that's all I needed was just a sympathetic ear, and then for someone to say, right, here's some advice, here's some guidance, go down this route and see where it takes you. Yeah. Again, I tweeted this out like 3 hours ago. Please give Jenny and her staff thanks for at least just giving me the chance to talk to her. As short a time as it wasn't a 2-hour talk, it wasn't even an hour, it was about 45 minutes because she had other people that she had to meet. But it was 45 minutes that I've never had previous to that with anyone, of any stature, shall we say. I've talked to plenty of people outside of Gamergate that are just colleagues and friends or acquaintances, whatever, however you want to call it. This is someone of at least some notoriety and reputation, or position, probably more likely in Jenny's case, that at least just made the effort to listen and give advice. She's not going to come out as a Gamergate supporter. She's not likely to. She's staunchly neutral. She says, I don't want to speak on behalf of it because I don't know anything about it other than what's just been mentioned today. She just had her first introduction to it today. But at least give her the thanks. She's at Jenny Chapman, I believe, on Twitter. So just give her the thanks. That's it. There's no need to spam her with information. If she asks, fine, give her the information. She says she might check out the tag and just try and get a feel of it herself. I have forewarned her of what she might expect. Even from us, just some of the stuff that we get into. I did actually use the phrase shit posting. Yeah. That was the exact phrase I used, and I said, but it happens. That's the nature of the internet. Take it or leave it. But I was worried, of course, of the reaction she might get from the antis, because we know, obviously, collectively what they're like. Yeah. I made the effort to try and protect myself and my livelihood and my job by forewarning them 2 weeks behind that I was going to do this today, and they were fine with it, and they gave me assurances and that they would protect me and basically ignore anything that's levelled my way. Jenny said today she didn't mind getting named. So by all means, I've named her. So yeah, if you want to just give her the thanks, just thank her and her staff for at least giving us someone just a push more like me, who never publicly spoke on Gamergate up until today. Yeah. Just 45 minutes just to basically talk about and say, hey, this is wrong, and we're just looking for a way to counter this, and and all we need is just someone to point us in the right direction, and that's it.
That's it. And the thing for the viewers and the thing to take away for anyone that does end up listening to the stream and that is here now, these are baby steps, but these are baby steps that you can take. The important thing is it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you are, take the baby steps and we will get there. Yes, we might all just be schmucks on the internet, but like ants, there's enough of us that we will walk over anything. And we need people to take that heart, especially when we're having these infights and whatever else about what things are all about. What it's about is the journalism. What it's about is getting rid of that ideology. How you choose to do that is up to you. If you choose to ignore the ideology, that's up to you. But for the love of God, do something. Otherwise, we're going to be in this situation forever. Now, Jodis is going to be with us later on the radio station. It's aerithradio.co.uk for those of you that are here. It will not be a discussion necessarily about this morning. It will be whatever gets discussed at the time. There is a chat box in there for everyone who wants to just jump in and ask questions on there as well. So if there's anything we didn't cover now, YouTube chat, come on later on, 10 p.m. British Standard Time, which is 7 hours or so from now. and just jump in, come in, say hello, talk to us, shitpost, we don't care. Just come and have a conversation if you want one. And if you don't want to have a conversation, that's fine. We hate you anyway. Okay, it's fine. But no, so it's been nice talking to you, though. It's been good.
Yeah.
So we're going to go off and stop broadcasting now. We'll see you guys in 7 hours, all being well. Have fun.
Thanks for having me.